Okay, hello. I was gonna wait till I was all done up tomorrow with makeup on and all to do this video, but then I just got too excited. Long story short, I am moving to London. And I think, I don't know if anyone would be that surprised by that, because obviously I do love London. I had an amazing summer here last year, but I think people will be more surprised by the fact that I'm not planning on going back to Bali. Yeah, I only kind of made this decision obviously in the last few days that I was in Bali. Like, I was planning on leaving anyway for the summer, and I was going to go back in August. It's a bit of a weird one, right? I actually watched Skinny Gaz. I don't know if you follow him. He's this Irish fellow who's really intelligent. I love. He reads a lot of philosophy. He studies to be a doctor. Really interesting stuff. Or really thought provoking. And he just put up a video saying, he's like, I could take my life and go do the whole laptop lifestyle and go to Thailand. I think he meant Bali, it was a bit of a dig. But I watched it, and, he's talking about how, is there a meaning of life when you just live this, on holidays all the time? And at first I was like, ugh. And that's the thing, Darren sent it to me thinking it was going to trigger me. But if anything, I finished watching it and I was like, basically he kind of said that, there is purpose and meaning in the mundanity of day-to-day life. Now he acknowledged that he almost challenges himself too much, studying to be a doctor. And I don't know, it was strange. I'll link the video below, but I watched it and I swear, if I can only describe it as existential dread. That word came to me and then I had to look it up and I was like, yeah, that is what I meant. I don't know how. I was like, that's what I meant. And it basically got me thinking, what is the meaning of life? I'm waking up every day in a beautiful climate, training with amazing people, eating good food, having fun, have freedom, no stress, spending time with cool people. And then I was like, but should I be struggling more? That was I was only going to message Gaz. I didn't even he kept saying in the video, I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. And I was like, no, I need to think about this. I couldn't sleep properly. The next morning, it was a Saturday, and I was like, I have to go down to the beach, meditate or something. I really need to think about this. And I really, it was so weird. I was like, what am I, I've kind of worked really hard, got enough money to do whatever I want. But at the same time, I don't feel creative in the work anymore. I do the bare minimum, basically, to keep the business going, successful, enough contact with clients that, everyone's happy. But I'm not creating anything new. I'm not, I don't know, I just feel like I do a bit of work in the morning, go train, then I'm wrecked, then there's lunch, then there's, my days in Bali are not productive. God, it was, and that whole weekend was a bit of a weird one. I just was also needed to, I also knew I wanted deeper connections with people. Dating in Bali is a joke because obviously people, damaged people end up there. Not talking about myself. But also it's really, obviously people come and go, and I even noticed, especially now as the borders opened and the crowds are coming in and in, I just wasn't seeing it as magical as everyone who was just seeing it. And it was great, seeing a lot of Irish people coming over and they're so excited. And I was like, I remember I used to be like that. I first went there in October 2018, so nearly 4 years ago. And I loved it. I just absolutely loved it. I loved it up until the last week there I left. I still love it. But I did a lot of soul searching. We did breath work, and something happened in the breath work on the Sunday night. I just came out of it, and it was just me, Cece, and Jamie, and I was just like, I'm moving to London. It was like this, a guided meditation at the end where you're in a breath work. It's almost like your brain is starved of oxygen. So it's a weird feeling, but it's also clarity, and I felt love and all this mad stuff. And by the end of it, it was asking you, or the guided meditation kind of brought you into a room where you're your most productive, your happiest, all this. And I just came out of it and I was like, I'm moving to London. And Cece was like, really? I was like, yeah. And it was mad, obviously. And even when I told her 2 weeks ago, we were in Galway, she's like, where are you going next? I was like, London, I told you this. And she was like, I didn't think you were serious. And the more I thought about it, I loved London last year. I was so productive. I had so much fun. I had a great social life. I was so lean. Not that that's a reason to move to a city, but I just mean it feels really easy to be active, eat well, have fun. you know, obviously Ben, it's a lot closer to home. It's a lot easier to build relationships. It's a lot easier to go on dates. Yeah, so I'm like, I'm telling my mum, I'm like, I'm going to London to find a husband. But I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I'm definitely open to going on dates. I'm like excited. Because the other thing is like I can have nice hair and makeup here, which I obviously didn't do for the video, but you know, keep it real. Jiu-jitsu. That's actually, it's funny, that's a huge reason that I wanted to stay in one place. And it's actually funny because it was in Gaz's video when he's talking about challenge and struggle and the, you know, the beauty of overcoming any challenges. And all he was talking about, I was like, that's jiu-jitsu. That for me, I was like, that's jiu-jitsu. It's that struggle. It's like when you don't want to do it, but you go and do it anyway, and you get rewarded for your efforts eventually, but you don't know when. I always think like it does mimic life a lot. And one thing that I really struggle with my progression in jiu-jitsu is obviously not staying in one place. Like obviously I was in Bali a lot, but you know, not for longer than 3 months at a time, I don't think, except for during the pandemic. And even then, like even the last 2 months I haven't trained at all. I went back to jiu-jitsu in London now this week, and you know, I'm just excited because I'm like, I'm actually going to be here for a while. It's a big thing for me. Like I've never, like I've signed technically a 2-year lease with a break clause. So technically I've signed a year lease on an apartment here. So I haven't signed it. That's why I haven't mentioned online yet, but I have transferred the deposit and everything. So like literally the last thing that has to be done is signed. And if that doesn't come through, there will be others, but I'm really, really excited with this one. It's kind of just perfect for what I wanted. And I'll show you that maybe in the next video. But I just wanted to explain where my head's at, why I'm not going back to Bali. Now, of course, I will visit. I left some stuff there. Like I have, yeah, so I need to go back at some stage, and I will. Like, it actually breaks my heart that I won't be training in Soma or Bali MMA. Like the jiu-jitsu there, so fun. Roger Gracie's is so different, but I like both. But then even with Bali MMA, I just wasn't staying there consistently. So I'm hoping Roger Gracie's will be my new home. I'll have to, it's going to be a bit of a trek from the new apartment, but I'm very productive on my walks, get all my steps in. I know loads of people in London. I've had, like last summer, it was so fun. And yeah, I'm really excited. Like it's like I've already had new work opportunities come to me. You know, going to events, get invited to events and stuff as well, which is great for networking. I don't know what the future holds. I really want to explore some new things, but I also think I'm just going to be so much more productive in my days. You know, if I train, it'll be, you know, for an hour and not like 2 hours where I have to like recover for ages. And I say that now, that's the plan. We'll see how that goes. And of course, I'm sure you're all wondering, how will I cope with the weather? And that was one of the first things. But for me, I really was like, well, for me, I was just thinking like, this will be my first proper winter. And I was like, once I have a decent coat. I was like, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothes. And that's always my problem when I come home for Christmas. I'm like, I don't want to buy a fancy North Face jacket or whatever you need to keep the cold and rain out, because I'm only here for whatever, 10 days or something. So now I'm like, right, well, if I get proper coat, proper boots and all that, maybe I'll be okay. And it's also, you know, it's getting practicing acceptance and realizing, now this might get a little bit deep, right? But when I was doing all these thoughts and questioning my beliefs and everything, I've always, like everything I've done to this point, I always was happy with my decision because it was always based off values. It was a value-based decision. So my values were freedom and happiness. And so it was easy to choose, you know, say like I had to pay more on my rent in London last year because I knew I was paying short term, and that was like a premium for having the freedom to leave and come and go whenever I want. Other things like obviously sacrificing relationships because I'm like, no, I want freedom, which means, you know, I never put the effort in or I never have time to build relationships with people. And then I see other people as well. Obviously, some people's values would be security, and that's why they just want to have their home for their family and that. And what I was asking myself, and I was going to put this question to a few people, it's like, what if our values are holding us out from finding the meaning of life? Now, obviously, the meaning of life, there is, not that there is no meaning, well, I don't know, I've been reading a lot of philosophy and I don't know what the meaning of life is yet, but I've also realised that nobody knows, and that, you know, for a long time I was living my happiest life, and I still am, but I'm also living a different life, well, starting this week. And I'm like, yeah, what if our values hold us away from life experiences? Like, say, for example, like maybe I haven't experienced a loving relationship properly. You know, I haven't experienced the love you have for a child. Whereas maybe someone who has those hasn't experienced, you know, being so deep in another culture, or the freedom to wake up every day and just get on a plane, you know, which is, there's so much happiness in that as well. So yeah, I'm doing a lot of deep thinking at the moment. And yeah, I didn't really say much online because, of course, you know, people be like, but I thought you said Bali was amazing and you want to stay there forever. And I'm like, it is. And of course, I've changed my mind on so many things in my life. And the more I learn, the more I realize like how ignorant I am of everything, and especially what's it called, the Dunning-Kruger effect, where, like, you know, when you start off and you're like, I know everything, and then the more you learn, you realize, oh my god, I know nothing. And then you start learning, then you start actually learning. That's where I feel like I'm at, like just the bottom point where you're like, I know nothing, but I've been learning a lot. So yeah, a couple of things. I have ideas, I have business plans, business plans and all these things. But yeah, it's exciting. I'm gonna edit this video and just put it up because I am dying to tell you all.